Sometimes the biggest moments on The Young and the Restless aren't explosive confrontations, shocking betrayals, or secret affairs. Sometimes they're conversations, a single discussion, a few carefully chosen words, one unexpected moment of honesty. And lately, it feels as though one conversation between Audra Charles and Nate Hastings may have quietly altered the course of Nate's future in ways neither of them fully understands. Because when Audra talks, people listen. When Nate listens, he often sees possibilities others miss. But what happens when two ambitious people begin influencing each other's decisions at exactly the wrong or right moment? The answer could reshape careers, relationships, and futures across Genoa City. And the consequences may only be beginning. One conversation with Audra may have changed Nate's future on Y&R. One of the most fascinating aspects of The Young and the Restless is its ability to turn ordinary moments into life-changing events. Not every turning point arrives with dramatic music. Not every major decision begins with a public showdown. Sometimes everything changes because two people sit down and talk. That's why the recent interaction between Audra Charles and Nate Hastings feels so significant. On the surface, it may have appeared to be just another conversation. Two intelligent adults exchanging thoughts, sharing perspectives, discussing challenges, moving on with their day. But beneath the surface, something far more important may have occurred. A seed may have been planted. And if history has taught viewers anything, seeds planted in Genoa City rarely stay dormant for long. Audra has become one of Genoa City's most influential voices. When Audra first arrived in Genoa City, many characters underestimated her. That was their first mistake. Over time, Audra has demonstrated a remarkable understanding of people. She knows how to read motivations. She knows how to identify weaknesses. She knows how to recognize opportunities. Most importantly, she knows how to influence outcomes without always appearing to do so. That's a rare skill. Some characters force change. Audra often inspires it. There's a difference. People become defensive when they're pressured. People become receptive when they believe ideas are their own. Audra understands this dynamic exceptionally well, which is why her conversations frequently carry more weight than viewers initially realize. Nate has reached a crossroads. To understand why this interaction matters, it's important to examine Nate's current situation. Few characters have experienced a more dramatic evolution over the past several years. Nate began as a respected doctor. Then came career changes, family conflicts, business opportunities, personal transformations, unexpected ambitions. With every step, Nate has attempted to redefine himself. Sometimes successfully, sometimes controversially. The challenge is that transformation creates uncertainty. When people change careers, goals, or priorities, they eventually reach crossroads, moments where important decisions must be made, moments where outside perspectives become unusually influential. Nate appears to be standing at one of those crossroads now. That makes any meaningful conversation potentially significant, especially when the other participant is Audra Charles. The right words at the right time can change everything. One reason this storyline feels compelling is because it reflects real life. Major life changes don't always begin with dramatic revelations. Sometimes they begin with a simple question, a challenge, a different perspective, a reminder of what's possible. People often know what they want long before they admit it. They simply need someone to help them see it clearly. Audra may have served that role for Nate. Perhaps she encouraged confidence. Perhaps she challenged assumptions. Perhaps she forced him to confront truths he'd been avoiding. Whatever happened, the interaction felt meaningful. Not because of what was said, because of what it might inspire next. Audra understands ambition better than most. If there's one characteristic Audra consistently demonstrates, it's ambition. She respects it, she pursues it, she recognizes it in others. That's one reason she and Nate often connect so naturally. Nate understands ambition too. He's lived it. He's sacrificed for it. He's struggled with its consequences. Both characters know what it feels like to want more from life. That shared understanding creates interesting dynamics. When ambitious people speak to one another, conversations often go deeper than surface-level discussions. They understand pressures outsiders don't. They recognize opportunities others miss. They challenge each other differently. That's what makes their connection so fascinating. Is Audra helping Nate or influencing him? This question sits at the heart of the storyline. Audra's intentions matter, and like many compelling Y&R characters, her motivations aren't always easy to define. Perhaps she genuinely wants what's best for Nate. Perhaps she sees potential in him. Perhaps she believes he's capable of more than he's currently pursuing. Those possibilities certainly exist, but another possibility exists as well. Audra may also recognize strategic value, not necessarily in a manipulative sense, simply in a practical one. Relationships in Genoa City often involve overlapping personal and professional interests. People help each other, people influence each other, people occasionally benefit from each other's success. The line separating support from influence isn't always clear, and that's what makes this situation intriguing. Nate has historically been vulnerable to big decisions. One recurring theme throughout Nate's story involves major decisions. He's rarely content standing still. He's willing to take risks. He's willing to pursue new opportunities. He's willing to reinvent himself. Those qualities can be admirable. They can also create vulnerability. People seeking growth often become receptive to outside advice, not because they're weak, because they're open. Openness creates opportunity. It also creates risk. If Audra's conversation arrived during a moment of uncertainty, its impact could be much greater than either character realizes. Words hit differently when someone is searching for direction. The romance factor cannot be ignored. Of course, any discussion involving Nate and Audra must acknowledge their personal connection. Relationships change conversations. Trust changes conversations. Emotional investment changes conversations. Advice from strangers feels different than advice from someone you care about. People lower defenses. They reveal insecurities. They consider perspectives they might otherwise dismiss. That emotional intimacy gives conversations unusual power. It's possible Nate listened more carefully because the message came from Audra. It's possible Audra spoke more honestly because she cares about Nate. Either way, their relationship adds another layer to the situation. And layers create drama. One decision could reshape everything. The most interesting aspect of this story is its potential ripple effect. Imagine Nate makes a significant decision because of insights gained during that conversation. That decision affects his career, which affects his relationships, which affects his family, which affects other storylines. Suddenly, one discussion influences an entire network of outcomes. That's how soap operas work. A seemingly small moment becomes enormously important in retrospect. Viewers look back and realize everything started there. Not with a scandal, not with a betrayal, with a conversation. This storyline has that kind of potential. Audra's own future may be connected. An often overlooked possibility is that Nate's future and Audra's future may be more interconnected than either realizes. Their goals don't exist in isolation. Their choices affect one another. Their successes and failures inevitably overlap. If Nate changes direction, Audra may be affected. If Audra pursues new opportunities, Nate may become involved. That's the nature of serious relationships. Individual decisions become shared realities. The stronger their connection grows, the more true this becomes. Which means Audra's influence on Nate isn't merely about his future. It's potentially about their future. Together. Genoa City rewards boldness, until it doesn't. One lesson repeated throughout The Young and the Restless is that bold decisions often produce mixed results. Characters who take risks frequently achieve remarkable success. They also encounter devastating consequences. The same action that creates opportunity can create disaster. Nate understands this. Audra understands this. That's why any major change deserves careful consideration. A conversation can inspire courage, but courage alone doesn't guarantee positive outcomes. The road ahead remains uncertain, and uncertainty is where great drama lives. Why fans are paying attention, viewers. Recognize important moments instinctively. even when characters don't. There was something different about this interaction, something that felt larger than the immediate discussion. Maybe it was the emotional honesty, maybe it was the timing, maybe it was the visible impact the conversation appeared to have on Nate. Whatever the reason, fans noticed. Because experienced soap viewers understand a simple truth. Writers rarely emphasize conversations unless those conversations matter. The real consequences often emerge later, days later, weeks later, sometimes months later. That's why speculation continues growing. People sense this wasn't just another scene, it was set up for something bigger. The real story isn't about Audra. Ironically, despite the headline, the deeper story may not actually be about Audra. It may be about Nate finally deciding who he wants to become. Audra could simply be the catalyst, the spark, the person who helped him see a path he was already considering. That distinction matters. Strong character development doesn't occur because someone else changes you. It occurs because someone helps you recognize what was already inside you. If that's what happened here, then Nate's future was never truly determined by Audra. It was determined by his willingness to listen, his willingness to reflect, his willingness to evolve. Final thoughts. One conversation rarely changes a life overnight, but it can change the direction of a life. And that's exactly why Nate and Audra's recent interaction feels so important. At a time when Nate appears to be evaluating his future, Audra may have provided insight, encouragement, or perspective that alters his next move. Perhaps the change will involve his career. Perhaps it will involve his relationships. Perhaps it will involve goals he hasn't even fully acknowledged yet. Whatever the outcome, the conversation seems destined to matter. Because the most powerful moments in The Young and the Restless aren't always the loudest ones. Sometimes they're quiet, personal, unexpected. A few words exchanged between two people who trust each other. A conversation that feels ordinary in the moment, and life-changing afterward. If that's what happened between Audra and Nate, viewers may eventually look back on this scene as the moment everything started to change. Not with a dramatic explosion, but with a simple conversation that opened a door neither of them can close. And once that door is open, the future becomes impossible to predict.